Erev Tov, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side. It's 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States. It is 9 p.m. in the Dominican Republic. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, and therefore it must be the Rabbis Discuss. And this is our election night special. So let us get right to it and let us bring in Rabbi Ancel. And you are on, sir.
Erev Tov, everybody. Let's hope for the best for the elections.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get into this too deep, I think what we want to do first of all is we want to, with the direction that the country has been going in, and not only the United States, but Canada, Israel until the recent election. We'll see what happens with that. To get an idea of what it is to actually live and in a communist country, and what does an election actually mean when you're in a totalitarian kind of a situation. And who better to ask that question than a man who actually lived through it, and that would be Rabbi Ancel. So
I'm going to take you back. Some of you were not even born. I'm going to take you back 60 years. And Romania was a full-fledged country under the Eastern Bloc. But it wasn't totally communist. It was socialist. If I tell you, there is only one party, and you had no choice. You were given the ballot with one name, you put your X on it, and that was it. There were not two people on the ballot.
Now, you said that they were socialists, but not communists.
Yes.
What's the difference?
The prime minister was Dej, but slowly, with the Russia influence, it became a communist country, which made it even worse because there was no food. There was hardly anything. The only time I had a pair of shoes, it was for Rosh Hashanah. My father could afford to buy a pair of shoes. And these shoes I used for another year. Bread, well, it was when I was there in 1985, 30 years later. I went into a bread store and the lady noticed that I was a foreigner. So I said to, because everybody had a piece of paper, and they punched it through for every time you went and bought bread. So I said to her, listen, I'll give you extra money. Could you give me an extra 2 or 3 breads? And she said, sir, if you can bring that bread over your knees, go ahead, I'll give it to you for free. And it was just black bread, and it was like cement. Meat, forget it. Sure, in the capital, in Bucharest, a foreigner could go into a restaurant, but it was only for foreigners. Romanian citizens couldn't go in. So communism, socialism, there was only one party. And like I said, you had no choice but to vote for this party. And you had to vote because they registered your name. Hello?
Yeah.
They register your name, and if you didn't vote, you ran into big problems.
Ah,
So, comparing when I left Romania, I was 14 years old. We landed in Paris, which Paris is a true republic. La République Française is a true republic. There's no democracy. So there's a big difference between democracy and a republic. From there, 5 years later, we came to Canada. Now, Canada was had three parties, so you had a choice to vote. Some people were far left, some people far right, very few people in the middle. That's why you always said in Canada, most of the time, you had a government that was in power and they had a majority. Not in the last few years, no. So now we come to the United States, where when I came to the United States, there were two parties, the Republicans, the Democrats. But people have a misconception about the United States because the United States is a true democratic republic. It's not a republic in itself. And that makes it a big difference. Going to Israel, well, that's another story because Israel, you don't basically need any Palestinians as enemies because they're their own worst enemy. Israel, there must be so many parties that you wouldn't even know what to choose from.
well, they have
So
a
I'm
they have
sorry?
a parliamentary system,
Yes,
much
but
like Britain does.
correct. But don't
Except
forget,
except in Britain, you basically have two or three major parties, and then the other ones kind of align with them to form a coalition.
correct.
Whereas in
So,
Israel, you just have, I mean, it's like a free for all.
yes, but once you come in power and you're a minority, you can make a deal with another party and then you become majority in the government. But to have, I would hate to guess, but probably 15, 20 different parties.
Yeah.
Don't understand why. Just, I mean, some of them are so far left that sometimes I don't recognize them as Jews. But then some of them are so far right that they're so religious that I don't consider them Jews because they don't recognize the state of Israel. So it makes it
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
and
Thank
yet they
God
and
that
yet they want a seat in the
Netanyahu came
government.
into power. Sorry?
And yet they want a seat in the government. They
Yep.
won't recognize the country, but they want a seat in the government.
Of course,
That don't
they
make
picked
any
up 10
sense at
seats,
all.
believe it or not. So thank God Netanyahu who's on the right side, he got 4 years and he had a majority, so there will be no problem because I watch that every day another Israeli gets killed, another one gets killed. They have a good mission. They're killing us one by one, and if Israel doesn't wake up, because Israel doesn't have baiting, they don't have any balls now, because you either deal with the problem at its roots, or they're going to kill you slowly, and this is what their intention is,
Yeah.
and they better wake up. So with Netanyahu, it's going to be a different story because Netanyahu is not going to let it happen.
Well, it's interesting because Bennett had the shortest term, or I guess shortest tenure, as prime minister in all of Israeli history. His
Yeah,
tenure
but
lasted 1 year.
yeah, because he didn't have a majority, and Bennett wanted the two-state solution, which even though Israel being a secular country, they won't agree to that
Yeah.
because then you have to go back to the 1967 borders.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but
You know, that's
mostly,
that's that's an interesting point though, because when we talk about Ehud Barak,
mhm,
when he went to what was it under Clinton, I
yes,
think it was, and he had the meeting with Arafat,
yeah,
and basically he gave him everything that he wanted.
they refused.
I would say about like 99% of everything that the PLO was demanding.
They got.
Barak said, okay, we'll give it to you. And before they could do anything else, Arafat jumped on a plane and left.
Yeah, but most people don't know. Arafat is not Palestinians. Palestinians never existed. Palestinians are actually Jordanians. And Arafat
Well, they're not
was an
even
Egyptian.
Jordanians,
He was
actually.
not anywhere close. He was born in Egypt.
Yeah, and the only reason he was in Israel is because he made so much trouble in Egypt that they basically banned him.
Correct.
And that's basically what the Arabs did when they wanted to get rid of political dissidents or troublemakers and stuff. They sent them to Israel.
Yep.
So I mean, the Arabs in Israel were a bunch of criminals, basically.
Yeah. The biggest sinner in that area, it was like when the Israelites made the golden calf. The biggest country that created this mess in the Middle East was England, because England had all the territories there, and then what happened? They made deals with some of these rich families, and they did partitioning, because a long time ago Kuwait never existed, the United Emirates didn't exist, all those small little countries never existed. Even Saddam Hussein, who was a murderer and a sick person, when he said that Kuwait belonged to Syria, he was not wrong. He was right. But when the partitioning happened, that's what England did. It created a Kuwait and the United Emirates and Dubai and all these countries. They never, ever existed. I wonder what England got because of that.
Yeah. Well, hang on. Before we go too farther, in the chat room right now, we have Richard, we have Marshall, or Marsh as I call him, and we have Claudia from Brazil. And we have a few people watching in the background. So, no, I just completely derailed my train of thought here.
We're talking about the partitioning.
Oh, I was wondering. I wonder if the people in the chat room actually know who in the British government who actually drew up the map of the Middle East. But you'll be surprised to find out who it was. But anyway, we'll give him a chance to answer in the chat room. We'll go on. Then we'll give him the answer in a few minutes. But but I mean the whole thing with the Hud Barak, I think people misunderstood what it was. Mm-hmm. They were thinking that he was selling out to the PLO and stuff, and I think what he was, at least I think this is what he was doing. I think he was playing chess. And I think he was saying, okay, let me show the world what these people are really all about. I will give them 99% of what they want. And we'll see, they'll turn it down, they'll run away, which means they don't want peace.
Well, he already knew the answer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that he wanted to do that to demonstrate to the world that these people were not they had absolutely no desire for a country of their own. They just simply wanted war. That's all they want.
But he's the one who controlled it. These people were illiterate, no education. Look at the area they lived in. I mean, if anybody would go now into Gaza, I mean, what's his name? The leader of the country now, Abbas. His house is worth a few $1 billion. I mean, it's the same thing. Ceausescu made himself a palace with 10,000 rooms. Putin made himself palaces, and he owns palaces and palaces and palaces and planes and boats and U-boats. These guys are for themselves. They don't care about the people. They don't care. Listen, this COVID, this was a setup by China.
Yeah.
China doesn't have enough food to feed its people. These people in some of the provinces, like the Sichuan and all these provinces, they go through 250,000 dogs for food. Mm-hmm. I can understand that. But then take their lives humanely, not to boil them alive so the meat is softer. this is not, we humans don't deserve to live on this world if we can do this to an animal that gives us their love unconditionally.
Yeah.
I don't understand. This is why I will not go to Spain. I will go to Catalonia, but I will not go to Spain because they still do bullfights in Catalan. It's outlawed. So I will go there. I don't understand how people consider that a sport, watching two or three matadors punish this poor bull and finally kill him. Okay, so they use the meat, but still, that's an arena with 10, 20,000 people. I don't get it. But let's talk about election.
Yeah,
Let's
I
go
was
back
going
to
to say,
the
we're getting a little far afield here,
yeah.
but
Let's go back to the United States. Now you have, what is it, three parties?
well, there actually is a lot more parties than that. But I mean, you
Main
basically
party,
have two major parties. You have the
yeah.
Republicans, you have the Democrats, and then you have these little offshoot ones. You have the Libertarians, which is
Green Party,
it's a fair sized party. But you have the American Taxpayer Party, you have the American Communist Party, you have the Green Party.
you have the
Uh,
Nazi Party.
yeah, I mean, there's probably 30, 40 different parties, but whether they are able to muster enough
They're
signatures to
not of
get on a
consequence.
ballot is another thing altogether.
So let's look. I mean, I voted for Trump for the simple reason is he was not a politician, but he's a businessman. He's made a lot of mistakes. If he would have learned how to keep his mouth shut, but his biggest problem, he didn't have anybody around him to guide him, and he made a lot of mistakes. The left, they didn't have anybody to run for president. How they chose Biden, I don't know. He's been in the government, I think, 45, 47 years.
Yeah,
Basically, as
way
a
too
senator,
long.
he never done anything.
Yeah, I think he's only sponsored one bill in all the time he's been in Congress. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm going to qualify it by saying that because
And the other
accuracy
thing is
matters. So
how, in God's
he
name,
only sponsored one actual
Bill.
bill, and I don't think it actually even passed.
Yeah. And the other thing is how, in God's name, who told him to get Kamala as a vice president? That is beneath me because she can't put together two sentences, even though she's a Harvard graduate and she's married to a Jewish husband, which means nothing to me. But
Well,
she hasn't got a damn thing.
I was talking to my brother today about that, and my brother is he's worked for IU Health for many years and stuff like that. That's a big hospital down in Indiana, and he said that I said she just comes off like a cackling idiot half the time, and he said that that's actually it's a psychological sign of somebody who is out of their depth and knows it. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. How did people elect AOC? She was a barmaid, not a clue in politics. How did they elect her? Or Tlaib, or the little fat Jewish guy, whatever he's in. What's his name?
Which one? Oh, yeah, Nadler.
No, the little fat Jewish guy.
That that
He's
that describes like 60% of them. You're gonna have to be a lot more specific than the short little fat Jew.
he's a member of the Congress. I don't know. I forgot his name. How did you elect them? This people have to sit down. Really, if United States to me is the greatest country in the world, there is no other country like United States. I love that country, Mises to pieces. How can people let it get away from them? I mean, somebody has to explain to me rising gas prices, rising food prices, house prices. people are panicking. Most people have lost their 401ks. I
Yeah.
mean, man, people wake up. Is this what you want?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You
there's
know, the
people who
people
are
complain, but yet they vote left.
people who have their Social Security or existing on their Social Security and stuff are saying that yeah, a lot of them have had to go back to work because they can't exist on what they're getting because prices are just
Listen,
skyrocketing on them,
I
and they
can't
can't
blame
afford to
Biden
can't afford to live.
100% because he's picked up many holes going back 10, 15, 20 years ago because every president picks up somebody else's problem. But Trump didn't create any problems. I mean, I think the economy was okay. Unemployment
Well,
insurance was
actually, the
okay.
economy was under Trump was record breaking.
So some people need to explain to me because I'm away from the United States and it still bothers me because who, okay, who do the Democrats have a person right now that is worth to be elected, let's say in 2024, worth to be elected as the president of the United States? Who? Name me.
I can't think of anybody that they could actually put up that would have enough pull to be able to run. I really can't think of anybody.
Okay, so let's go to the right. Let's forget Trump. Like I said, he made a lot of mistakes too. But the Republicans do have two or three good guys that,
Oh yeah,
hey,
they've got quite
they
a
would,
few.
yeah, that would make a good president. So I believe the Democratic Party is in trouble.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
that
also
that is a
believe,
good point because I mean, basically, they've been pretty much kowtowing to the woke group for so long. They've lost touch with the people. They have no idea. They're trying to push an agenda to tell the people this is what you're actually concerned about, and the people are going, no, no, we're worried about putting food on the table. You know, we're worried about having a job. We're worried about having gas in our gas tank. We're not that worried about the green agenda.
so why is there so many fools or foolish people still vote the wrong way?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I remember watching, like I said, I was in the lived in the United States for 22 years. Now, please explain to me every president that I have seen going back 22 years. And prior to that, because I was in Canada and I watched the United States elections, every president had a captain or a colonel walking behind them with the football.
Right.
Has anybody seen Biden with the football?
I can't recall
I
seeing
haven't seen
him.
it because I have been told that he does not have the football and it's held by Pelosi. Now, that's another big problem for me, too, but at least he doesn't have it because I believe that he's too old. I think he has mental issues. I'm not saying he's crazy. I am saying that there's a little bit of dementia in his head.
Yeah.
And as
So,
such, you cannot entrust a person with a football. I don't know if everybody, I guess everybody knows what the football is.
well, there may be. I mean, Claudia, who's in Brazil, may not know who the.
The football they named it a football. It's all, there's an officer who has an attaché case and it's chained to his wrist. And in that attaché case are the codes to the nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know the real reason why they call it the football, but that's what they call it, the football. And wherever the president goes, that thing goes with him. If the president goes to sleep, he sleeps outside the president's room. It does not leave the president because those are, God forbid, let's say Russia or China, starts a war.
Yeah.
He needs to have those codes. So,
So going back to the chat room, Richard, I asked the question about who actually drew the map of the Middle East, And Richard says, Sykes Picot, a British and a Frenchman. Actually, the one who actually drew up the map, the original map that divided up the Middle East, was actually Winston Churchill.
Correct.
And then it goes through the government, and they have to negotiate and all that other stuff. But the man who actually drew up the original map was Winston Churchill. And he did the world no favors by doing it.
Oh, that was one major screw up. That was the biggest mistake. But like I said, I'd like to know what England got for it.
Well, we know what England got for it. BP, British Petroleum.
Correct.
That's not all. I mean, if we go back to World War II, Allen Dulles,
yes.
who was the Secretary of State under FDR.
Correct.
Basically was striking deals with the Arabs for oil back just before World War II, and basically committed treason. It's a wonder he was never brought up on charges, but committed treason. We named an airport after this clown by threatening to withhold oil from the United States because he held the contracts. He used this political position to buy up oil contracts in the Middle East, and then threaten the government with it if they didn't play ball his way. And so they were going to turn around and name an airport after him. But I mean, if we look at and we talk about things today, how bad they've gotten and stuff like that, and we say, how did we get here? And we don't. A lot of people don't seem to realize that it took us about 100 years to get to this point, where things have just gotten so crazy. And this all started back with, actually the first progressive president, which was Woodrow Wilson, and Teddy Roosevelt was actually a progressive. FDR was radical progressive. He was the first one to head towards that whole communist thing. He wanted centralized government. But it's taken, and then we have LBJ with the Title IX, I think it was, and then under I can't remember who it was on. I think maybe Jimmy Carter it was, where the feds took over the school districts.
Yeah,
the schools.
I truly believe that LBJ had something to do with Kennedy's death, because he said it publicly. He says, "I will do anything to become president of the United States." He wanted to be so badly president of the United States. It kind of makes, no, this is just my opinion. And I apologize if some people don't agree with me, but it's fine. But my belief is that he had a hand in it.
I'm reading a book. It's funny you bring that up, because I'm reading Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing Kennedy, right now. And it's actually quite illuminating that Kennedy actually absolutely could not stand LBJ. And so much so that LBJ could not fly on any mission to anywhere in the world. He could not fly on Air Force One or Marine One unless he had permission from the president. And a lot of times when he would go out to these meetings and stuff with different states and stuff, he had to fly commercial.
Yeah. But listen, JFK, to me, JFK was a little bit of a whoremaster.
Oh,
So,
yeah, but you have to give him this, that he was the last actual Democrat.
Correct.
Everybody that's been after him has been a liberal progressive. He was actually the last actual Democrat that we had for a president. Marshall says Kennedy did not want the Vietnam War. Yeah, I mean, when he came in, Eisenhower already had advisors, quote unquote, advisors in Vietnam at that point.
Listen, we had no right to be in Vietnam for what reason? Somebody got to give me a reason, and then I'll say okay.
Well,
We
Vietnam
had
was
we
just absolutely crazy. Why? Because we came in. I mean, it's really bizarre because during World War II, Ho Chi Minh was actually an ally of the United States.
correct.
Okay, so during the war, the French got kicked out of Vietnam, by the Japanese. And after the war, I mean, he basically patterned the North Vietnamese Constitution on the U.S. Constitution. But when the war was over, the United States kind of abandoned him and gave Vietnam back to the French, and they came in and did what the French typically do, and that's what turned him towards the communists, and and all of that. Why we actually got involved in there? They say it was for oil, but I mean,
56,000 lives got lost there.
Yeah, but they said it was for oil. And
Yeah,
I don't buy that.
I don't think so. We have no business being in Iraq and in Pakistan because they're poor countries. There's no oil there, but there's a lot of raw material because Pakistan is the biggest grower of poppy seed, so they got the raw material for the drugs.
But what did Vietnam actually have?
Nothing.
I mean, they have oil, but we could get oil. We never even bought oil from Vietnam. We got most of our oil from Venezuela.
But the United States has enough oil in its country that they don't need it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't buy that whole we were in Vietnam for oil. It just doesn't make any sense because we weren't even getting oil from them. We were getting oil from Venezuela, and we could have got it from Saudi Arabia if we wanted to.
Saudi Arabia produces more barrels in one day than Vietnam in a whole year.
Oh yeah. So
So
that whole argument doesn't hold any water. So why were we in Vietnam? I have no idea
same thing.
in the world.
Like I said, most people don't know that there is a law, worldwide law, that any country that grows poppy seeds or this, they have to sell the raw materials to the government. India is the only country that does. Pakistan, Iraq, they don't. So all the raw materials for oxycodone and this and this and this comes to the United States. That's the whole thing. It's the illegal drugs because they don't sell it to the government because Indians have to sell it to the government. Then India will sell it to Pfizer, to whatever, to the producers, but it's legalized. Iraq and Pakistan, they never signed that agreement, so this is their income. This is their illicit money. They make it from the drug war. That's the only interest. Pakistan and Afghanistan, they don't create oil. They buy it from Iran. So there's more to it. And I've always considered, whether it's you're left or right, politics is a dirty game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And somebody has to tell me, if there is a human being that says to me, I want to be the president of the United States, he has to be out of his cotton picking mind.
Yeah.
Because if they think that's an easy job, maybe sleep 2-3 hours a day, or the phone goes off in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, I mean you can look at any president.
You see how they age?
You look at the picture of them when they were first elected, and look at them after 4 years. I mean, they aged like 20 years in that period of time.
I saw a picture of Clinton. He looked like he's got AIDS. Is that that skinny, and it's disgusting. But it's the ego of the man, you
Yeah.
know. Maybe we should try once a woman president of the United States. I wonder. But is there a woman smart enough? I'm not saying that there isn't, but is there one? I don't know.
Oh, I think there's probably a few that would, would qualify. I mean,
Mhm.
but as hard as it is for a man to stand up under that kind of pressure, I gotta think it's got to be a lot harder for a woman to stand up under that pressure.
It's it's I don't know. I don't know if you even call it a job. I think it's a suicidal job.
Yeah,
But but it's the name. You know, you carry Mr. President for the rest of your life. So
that's true. Okay, so let's get back to the elections now.
okay,
Okay, so we just had Netanyahu was re, reelected,
yep,
and by a big margin.
yeah. So he's got 4 years. Nobody can touch him for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty clear signal that people in Israelis were kind of fed up with the leftist milk toast kind of let's play nicey with that we had under Bennett.
You know why? It's because of me.
Oh, because of you.
Yeah, it's because every day on Facebook I kept on saying, Israel has no balls.
Yeah.
Israel has no balls.
Well, I
And
mean,
it's
at
true.
least under Netanyahu, okay, maybe I didn't agree with everything that he did, but at least, when he said something to the Palestinians, they took him seriously. They knew
He's not
if
afraid.
he made a
He's not
threat, he was
afraid
going
to.
to
This
follow
is
through.
why, and this is surprising because the world is looking at the United States. Come on, people. Biden is the only one who's never hasn't called Netanyahu to say congratulations.
Oh no,
Every
no, that's
even
that's that's actually not true. Biden did actually call and congratulate Netanyahu.
when
That was okay. Let's
you
see.
see,
I
I
was
don't
just
watch
reading
TV,
it.
so
I
I
was
don't
reading
know.
it this afternoon on the Jerusalem Post. Um, it was like the day after the election.
So why are they saying? I was reading to. You see, I don't watch. I don't watch TV. I don't have a TV because I'm not interested. But I was reading yesterday that and they keep on saying the only president who hasn't called, the only president. So I'm just this is hearsay. It's not me. I don't know.
It isn't because, like I said, I saw it on the Jerusalem Post today. I went over to Root Sheva to confirm it, and yeah, it was on Root Sheva too. So, there's two sources that say yes, he did. So, I mean, fair is fair, because accuracy matters.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't, like I said, I'm not having TV. I don't even know what's going on tonight in the elections.
Yeah, but we also know that Biden is no friend of Israel.
He's not.
And I mean, look what his whole discussion with Shimon Peres he did.
Yep.
When he met with him and he was making threats, and Perez had to kind of set him down and say, "Look, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but we don't need your money. And if you're gonna make threats like that, then keep it."
But it's not really necessary to do this because Israel is United States' biggest ally. Forget England and France because to me they're really nobodies. You know,
Yeah.
and the United States always supported all the presidents always supported the United States because they're supposed to be friendly nations, and this is what I don't understand. And the other thing is looking at the United States, and you're looking at election and politics. You got anti-Semitism. You get universities that are supposed to be teaching our children.
and then teaching them Nazism and
Yeah.
that men can have
Well,
babies.
look at Berkeley, California, the
Yep. Well,
university there, where they actually set up a Jew-free zone,
yep.
Judenhaus, a Judenfrei, right?
Yep.
They set that up, and you would think that that would be big news, but basically Fox carried it, Newsmax carried it, the Daily Wire carried it, but you saw nothing about it. At least as far as I could see, you saw nothing about it on CNN, MSNBC, ABC,
But the United States always had a
any of the
Nazi party.
legacy media.
I said the United States always had a Nazi party. There's a lot of Nazis in the United States.
Oh,
Not
it
as
was
much as
actually a fairly
Argentina
big
or
party
something like this.
during just before World War II.
Yep.
Donald has finally joined us. I'm sorry I was late,
He went out
but
to
no
vote.
choices at the. Let's see. What's that? Uh, Donald says Israel can live without the U.S. Can the U.S. live without Israel? I seriously doubt it because the U.S. Relies heavily on Israel for their Middle East intelligence.
Most people don't understand how much intelligence Israel gives to the United States regarding the Middle East.
Oh yeah,
Middle East is a boiling pot. Most people don't know it.
yeah, that
It
is
is a
true.
boiling pot because even within the Muslim nations, that there is few of them, they're fighting each other. The Shiites and
Shias and the Shiites
the Sunnis, they're
and the
fighting between
Sunnis.
each other, and it has nothing to do with the country. It has to do because one says that Allah's their God, and one says no, it's Muhammad, and they're killing each other. So it's a
Yeah.
boiling pot,
So
and Iran is the big poison there. But Iran can only threaten words because they know that if they tried, the response from Israel would be devastating. And I can tell you a story. When I was training in Israel with the idea,
okay, hang on. Before you go there, let's let the people in the chat room know that you were actually a fighter pilot.
yes, my last 10 years, I flew the F-18, and I've got approximately between 14 and 18,000 hours in the air. And thank God I survived because during Iran, we were sent in by Nixon because Nixon knew that the Iranian Air Force, because they had the MiGs, they
Mm-hmm.
the pilots that were manning the MiGs were Russian. They were not Iranian pilots. And we were sent to find out how good they were. Well, the pilots were okay, but the MiG 21, 23 was a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
So,
So this was before the Ayatollahs.
that was before
Yeah, this
Ayatollah.
was back when
This is
the
why I'm
Shah
saying
was
because
still in power, right?
we were in Iran and we met the Shah, and I actually, I don't know if my son still has it, but I have his coin. He gave each one a small gold coin because in Iran that was their money, gold coins, and he gave six of us because we trained with them because Iran was friendly with the United States, and during the time of the Shah of Iran. But then when Ayatollah came in, everything went upside down.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
This,
basically that was I people from Israel went to Iran for vacation,
oh,
and the people from Iran came to
some of the
Israel for
discos,
vacation.
Beirut. Oh my God, Beirut was more beautiful than Paris. Beirut was the rose of the Middle East. I mean, the discos. Most people don't even know. I mean, the mulatto Muslims. They're beautiful women. I mean, there was miniskirts. Nobody wore the outfits. And there's the other misconception. And the Quran says that women should hide their private parts, not their face. But the reason why they hid their face because, and hundreds of years ago, they used to have tribes and they used to war between each other. So they used to steer their women, so they hid
Right.
their face. So you were on a horse and you grabbed the woman. You didn't know if you grabbed a 16-year-old or a 90-year-old grandma, so they
Yeah.
hid their face, and then they still wear it. That's just as a tradition, but that's not Muslim law, and it's
Yeah.
not written in the
Right.
Quran.
Right.
So
So
politics, whether it's in the Middle East or the United States or everywhere else, it's dictated a lot by politics. The religion is dictated a lot by politics. So is in Israel, because there's always the real extra, the real extra Orthodox Israelis, and they don't recognize the state of Israel. So my question is, why do you live there?
yeah.
But that's okay because they have the habit of having 10, 15 kids, so they needed to be support because they're not supposed to work. They're not supposed to go into the Israeli army. So the Israel pays them, gives them money so they can survive, but yet they don't only time they say the only time Israel will exist is when Mashiach will come. Well,
Right.
you know what? We can wait a long time ago because there's only two reasons why Mashiach will come. So we don't deserve it. So as far as that concerned, they can tell me their story. But slowly, I watched this last election. They picked up 10 seats, the Orthodox. So what are they going to do? They're going to make our lives more miserable because they're going to, well, they have no choice now because Netanyahu has a majority, but they can still complain about it, make conversions a little bit harder,
Hmm.
make getting married a little bit harder, get a divorce maybe a little bit harder, try to change the rules. But the problem is they don't sit down and think it out completely. What are the repercussions?
Right.
What are the repercussions that if the Republicans get a majority in the Senate and in the House? What are the repercussions?
Okay.
Because this
So
is this is this is an election of vengeance.
okay. So we're at our halfway point. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to turn you down for here for a minute.
Okay.
So we're at our halfway point. We're going to take a quick 6-minute break, and then we'll be back and we'll complain a little more. What can I say? Donald, we'll get to your question as soon as we get back. So everyone, please stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back, just as we promised we would be. And let's bring Rabbi Ancel back on. You are back on, sir.
I'm here.
Yes, you are. So you wanted to, before we answer Donald's question, you wanted to tell a story.
I'm sorry?
I said before we answered Donald's question, you said you had a story you wanted to talk about.
Yes. I was sitting on a Friday night. I went for Friday night Shabbat dinner because didn't have too many people. They knew too many people, so I went to a restaurant. And, you know, Friday night and Saturday, this is when Israel lives because Sunday starts the first day of work. Anyways, I was sitting with my wife having dinner, and inside walks in a gentleman. He was in a uniform with his wife, and I just took a look at his uniform, and I knew he was, they call him in Israel, they call him a Rav Aluf. That means a general. So he sat down beside me because it was a small restaurant, you know, like 8-10-seater. And it was good because it was Russian and they make good food. The waiter right away ran over to him and brought over a bottle of cognac. And being so close, we got talking about, you know, because and I told him that I had trained with the IAF, so we got talking. And before he left, he looked at me, he says, remember and tell all your friends, he says, when boys and girls come to me into the army, they're children. When they leave, they're men and they are women. I once flew El Al, And since I was a pilot, I had my pilot's license, and those days were before September the 11th, and I could said to the stewardess, "Can you tell them that I would like to join them on the bridge?" So she went and asked, and they said, "Of course." And I went in, and I almost passed out at the controls. And he was the captain at the controls. Was a kid.
Yeah.
And I said to him, "How old you are?" He said, "Pretty soon I'm going to be 22."
Does your mother know you're out this late on a school night?
We used to train with the IAF, and because they started to get the F-14s, the F-15 Eagle, the F-16, a few. They don't have that many, but we showed them, the intricacies of flying. And 3-4 days later, they used to fly. They used to fly around us, making us look silly, and we were the one who was supposed to come and teach them.
Yeah.
So the reason why that is because they are pilots that defend their lives, their country. They defend Israel. So they become good. In Israel, every 4 years, there's a school for pilots. 100 people are allowed, men and women. After 4 years of study, 10 graduate. The rest of them fail. So they will only take the 10 best. So yes, now we were talking before the other day about wars. There are two kinds of wars. One for you want to take land, and one when you want to. It's your country. You want to look after your country.
Yeah, well, you have you have no choice. I mean, at that point, your backup is against the wall, because if you lose, you lose big.
This is why I'm saying Iran can speak. They will threaten, verbally. They know that it would be the end of Iran, and unfortunately, it could be the end of the world, because once you hit a nuclear weapon in the area that is full of oil, it'll rip out a piece of the earth, and that'll be the end of the earth. So, yes, they can talk and talk and talk and talk all you want. They'll never start a war. If they do, they're out of their mind.
Yeah. Well,
But
to answer Donald's question, which was
how much intelligence Israel gives. Israel is probably the only country that gives United States more intelligence than any other country, because Israel controls the Middle East. Don't mean control, but they know what's going on in the Middle East. And the Middle East is a boiling pot, So everything goes to the United States, and the United States knows that Israel is their best friend.
Hey, Donald, you got to take a breath every once in a while just to give me a chance to get in.
I'm stopped.
Donald's,
you got to.
Donald's question actually was how much technology Israel provides to the U.S. Militarily, they actually do, and because we've seen this many times, like the Abrams tank, which they gave to Israel. Israel actually took it, made a lot of improvements to it, made it much more efficient, and turned it into the Merkava, which technology and those changes they shared with the United States. They made changes and upgrades to the aircraft that the U.S. has supplied, that Israel has bought from the U.S., and they share that with back with the U.S. Iron Dome, which was originally came from the United States to Israel, and then they came and they made improvements on it, again, to make it much more accurate, and again, sharing that information back to the United States. So, they're kind of like Japan.
Yeah.
Where Japan will see somebody has an idea and they'll go, I think we can make it better. And Israel's kind of like that. They'll take something that they'll buy something from the United States, some piece of military hardware. They'll take a look at it. They'll analyze it. They'll make adjustments to it. They'll make it better, and then they'll share that information back.
You remember the F-4 Phantom?
Oh yeah.
Do you know Israel made another plane exactly like the F-4 Phantom? They still use it for training. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it's an Israeli plane made?
You know, I used to know what it is. I don't know what it is. I can't
Was the
remember.
Kafir.
Yeah.
Short range, 400 mile, because from Tel Aviv to Beirut will take him probably 10 minutes. So
Uh-huh.
Israel never really needs long distance fighter jets. You know,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
for Iran, yes, but these countries are so close to each other, it's kind of scary.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yes, militarily, Israel has a lot of stuff medically. Medicine in
Yeah.
Israel is the best, especially when it comes to cancer. You know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of medical technology. I mean, they. I'm constantly hearing about things that Israel has come up with. That they've been working around the world trying to figure this stuff out, and Israel comes up. Now, what do you think is going to happen with Israel now that Netanyahu is back in, and now that he has a solid grip on the prime ministership, regardless of what's going on with that whole trial thing, which is just crazy anyway. Um, what what do you think is going to happen going forward?
I believe everything is going to go back to normal. I believe that the areas that the others wanted to give away in Judea and Samaria is going to become, they're going to start building again. And I believe if things don't straighten out with the Palestinians, I believe that he is strong enough that they will take over the Temple Mount.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that because
I would
that
like to see
truly
that too.
belongs to the Jews, not to the Muslims. The Muslims, where they belong is in Mecca, not there. Mecca is their country. Mecca is the rock of the dome, the rock of, what
The
do you call
Dome
it?
of the Rock, or the
Yeah,
yeah,
that's where they belong.
the
That's
Kaaba,
where
right?
all Muslim are supposed to do once in a lifetime. They call it the Hajj.
Yeah,
So, and the Temple Mount belongs to Israel, but let's see. I believe that Netanyahu is a strong man. I hope he elects a good chief of staff, and I hope he elects good enough people around him that do something. Because before it was, they did nothing. I mean, they were ready to give up Samaria and Judea. They were ready to give up more land. I mean, the widest portion of Israel is 19 kilometers. It's nothing. If you start from the bottom of south in Eilat and you drive to Rosh Hanikra, which is Lebanon, the doors of the Rosh Hanikra, the top of the mountain, you can do it in 3 or 4 hours.
yeah.
Well, most people don't. It's not a big country.
No, it isn't.
I think New York City is bigger than Israel.
Oh
I
yeah,
may be wrong, but I think it's about it. They said it's like the size of what's the state?
New
Rhode
Jersey.
Island, which is the smallest state in the United States.
What, the smallest?
So getting back to the elections, anybody has any comments or they want to know or they have some ideas? Because
Well,
I'm sure there's some that are listening. Some are Democrats and some are Republicans, and no disrespect to either one.
yeah, actually quite amazing what I've seen so far. Because I mean, we're not seeing a lot of coverage. Well, because we came on at 8 o'clock, we're not
Okay.
actually seeing a lot of coverage because a lot of the coverage actually doesn't start until 8 o'clock because that's when the majority of the East Coast polls close, with the exception of Pennsylvania, which I think they actually close at 7:30. Um, and Pennsylvania has to go through their ballot counting system is a little different than everybody else's, so it takes them longer to count. So even though they closed the polls earlier, we're not going to see their count until later this evening because they can't even start counting the absentee ballots until 8:01. So it's just kind of different how they do it. But we were seeing early returns, not really returns, but turnouts in Florida and stuff. And what was really surprising was to see that in Miami County, which is traditionally a Democratic stronghold, that the numbers of Republican voters showing up to the polls for the Democrats by they were up like 730,000 730,000 voters more Republicans than Democrats. It's just astounding what's going on out there, and I think a lot of it has to do with what's been going on in the country and all the craziness that's been going out there. And I think people are starting to wake up and realize that if we continue on this path, we might as well just hack a hammer and sickle where the Stars and Stripes were.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Let's take it that if the Senate and the House becomes Republican, what's going to happen? Because can the president still veto? Yes.
Oh yeah, but they can pass over a veto with a 2/3 majority.
Okay. Well, they're going to have the majority, no?
Yeah, well, 2/3. They have to have 2/3 of the Senate to override a veto.
Okay.
So, Donald's right. He says the silent majority is speaking. Yeah, well, the silent majority is kind of fed up. But, I've heard some rumors from some fairly good sources, and you can take it for what it's worth, is that Schumer and Pelosi and that group, along with Biden, have already said that if they lose control of the House and the Senate, that President Biden is going to go on a executive order spree, and it's going to be bizarre, some of the things that he's going to sign in, which they're actually saying it could actually be a good thing because it will go all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to have to rule, and then there's going to be conditions put onto the use of executive orders, which have been abused for a very long time. I don't know if people actually know what the whole purpose of the executive order is, but this goes back to the time when Congress was never actually intended to be a full-time job. It was actually a part-time job. They got together 2 times a year to deal with the business of the country, and then they went back to wherever they came from, and they worked for a living, And it wasn't until modern times that it actually became a full-time job. So the whole idea was that in the interim, in those times when the Congress was not in session, which was the majority of the time, that in a state of emergency, the president had to have the ability to actually go to war or whatever he needed to do. So that's how the executive order thing came about. It was supposed to be used in a time when Congress was not in session, but it has been greatly abused over the years. And if the rumors are true, and again, you can take it for what it's worth, exactly what you paid for it, nothing. That if he goes on to an executive order spree, that we may actually see this, may see restraints put on to the executive order, which would be a good thing. I think I think the Democrat Party is basically destroying themselves.
It's going to be interesting.
Yes, it is. It'll be interesting if they lose control of the House and the Senate, and then they continue on this crazy path that they have been on for the last, let's see, 8, 12, 14 years since Obama. They keep going along this path. I think you're going to see that basically people are going to start, they're going to abandon the Democrat Party in droves.
I can see a revolution.
I don't think they have I don't think they'll have the numbers to do it.
I'm not talking about the Democrats. I'm talking about just the people.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to have. I mean, you have to have people to do it, and I don't think they have the support. I don't think they have the support to be able to pull something like that off.
Who?
The progressives, the liberals.
I don't know.
I don't. They never have had the numbers, and that's why it's
power. There will be a revolution.
If what happens?
If the Democrats retain power, there will be a revolution.
I hate to go there, but I can see that that could potentially be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Hopefully, it wouldn't be. But, I mean, that's how we ended up in the Civil War, right?
Yeah.
So, we...
gotta hope.
Yeah, hopefully it won't go that way. But we will see. It doesn't seem to be... the exit polling doesn't seem to be going in that direction. It looks like the red wave that they've been calling for or been saying is going to happen. It is actually. I mean, when you got James Carville, and I don't know if you don't know who James Carville is he's a political analyst. He's like the biggest Democratic cheerleader out there. And when you have a guy like that saying that this is going to be a slaughter, I mean, you got to take him seriously. I don't know. James Carville just looks like somebody kind of squashed his head while it was still wet. It's just he's kind of a bizarre looking guy. Smart guy, but I think his allegiances are a little goofed up. But,
he's been a Democrat for a long time.
Oh, he has been, and he's been one of their biggest cheerleaders. And when he's saying the Democrats are in trouble, they're in trouble. So
I still want to see the results before I'm going to say something.
And I have a question for you.
Yep.
I was watching the news today. Big surprise, I know that. And I was watching. They were talking about this little town on the southern border in Texas, with all these illegal immigrants just walking across the border into the United States. Nobody stopping them. Nobody doing anything. And what I found interesting is they were asking this reporter was asking these people where they were from as they were coming through. And again, we're hearing, Venezuela and stuff like that. But there was a whole group of them that said they were coming from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, but you must understand, they didn't come from they're Dominicans living in let's say in Venezuela, in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Mexico.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, because they had this. There's a whole line of them, and he's asking me, he's going Dominican, and I'm going.
But not from here. These are out. You know that it is almost impossible for a Dominican citizen born here, living here, to get a visa to the United States. And this is why. Is because every Dominican has ever gone to the United States has never come back. So now
Yeah.
now for
Well,
you to
most of them have been baseball players.
yeah, you have to bring a lot of paperwork. You have to give them a guarantee that you will return. You cannot
Oh,
come
yeah?
from the Dominican, your wife and your children, because it just will not happen. You have to leave your wife and children at home. So what a lot of Dominicans do, they leave them at home because 99% of Dominicans never marry, legally never marry. They will live together, they'll have children together, and they will die.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to get married in the Dominican as far as for Dominicans. And the other thing is the law is different here. Here, the law says like this: whatever for the husband, whatever your parents own and they leave you is yours. Your wife cannot touch it. Whatever her parents leave for her is hers. You cannot touch it. So they say, why get married? I'm going to get mine. You're going to get yours. You want to put it together? That's fine. If you don't want to put together, stay separate. But they very seldom I have seen. I mean, yeah, the upper class of Dominicans, yeah, they will get married legally or like lawyers and doctors, yes. But town people, city people, I have met too many.
You know, it's,
So why get married? So they live together. My lawyer
uh-huh.
lives with a child with a gentleman. She has an 18-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, but they're not legally married.
Yeah. Why is
She
that?
said, "Well, get married." I said, "What's mine is mine, what's his is his." I mean,
Well, I
you go to
thought
court, it's
I
still going to
thought
be
that
the same.
I thought the Dominican was primarily a what do you call it? Roman
Catholic
Catholic?
country. Yeah, Dominican, if people look at the Dominican flag, is the only flag in the world that has a Bible on it. And they say it's a Catholic country. Well, you should come here when they call it La Semana Santa, the Holy Week. They're supposed to be in church. To them, Semana Santa, Holy Week, is to be in the pool with a bottle of rum and get drunk.
So
No.
it's kind
Yeah,
of
they
a
hold-
it's kind of
they
a
hold
Christian
themselves
nation
as
in
being-
name only, huh?
Yeah, in Sosua there is one big church, but then you have all the offshoots of the Catholic religion. So yeah, they have the Seventh-day Adventists and the Pentecostals and days, but they rent little rooms. So basically, each city will have a major Catholic church, but that's it. You're not going to see like in the United States, every street has 10 churches. Forget it. There's probably 10 churches in all of the Dominican.
Yeah, really? Wow.
Yeah. So don't go by what the books. Yeah, it's considered. It's always been considered like a Catholic country, and like I said, it's the only flag of the world that has a Bible on it.
Yeah.
But are they Catholics? Like me.
So what are elections like in the Dominican?
Don't forget, United States was here for 25 years. So
Right.
a lot of the laws, the civil laws and the penal code and the election code is geared like in the United States.
So what are elections like in the Dominican?
If you're a resident, a permanent resident of the country, and you're a citizen, you have polling stations, and they have a list of the president, the vice president, and then the House. And there's a House here, and there's a House of Senate here, House of Representatives, and the House of Senate.
Okay, so it's
And
basically set up like the United States is.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the gear, like I said, civil law, marital law is different. Civil law is the same. Election laws are the same. The penal code is basically the same.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's still a few differences, but it's not going to be 100%. But basically geared towards the United States civil and penal code.
Yeah. So when they
The
have
only
a
difference is in the United States, if you go to jail, you got color TV, basketball courts, and everything else. Here, if you don't have family to bring you food every day,
Right.
you get 2 slices of bread and a glass of water. That's it.
yeah,
So basically, you really don't want to go to jail here, especially if you get caught with drugs. You'll go to the lowest. I mean, there's no fans that can you imagine June, July, August, September?
yeah,
It's 40, 42, 45 degrees Celsius outside, and you got a small window and no fans. I mean, forget it.
yeah. Oh man. Well, that's one way to lose weight.
Yeah, or die quickly.
Yeah, well, that's the ultimate weight loss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So we're about at our end of our time, and I'm sure some of the people watching want to watch the election results in their areas. So why don't we go ahead and close it up for tonight?
Okay.
And we'll be back on tomorrow night with the Torah study in depth.
Okay.
And then I'm going to turn you down for just a moment.
Okay.
Okay. We'll turn Rabbi Ancel off. Okay, so tomorrow night, the Torah study in depth. Again, Rabbi Ancel will be here with us. And then Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, Kabbalat and Ma'ariv, the Shabbat service. And then Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. Eastern is the Shachrit and Musaf. And then Monday at 8 p.m. is Zeta's Story Corner. And then right back here again Tuesday for the Rabbis Discuss, and we'll find out what interests us during the week that we want to talk about next week. Until then, everyone, we'll simply say, Laila Tov.